Welcome back to Frankly Speaking.
Welcome to We Know Best Week in the Capitol. I just want to say thank you to a couple I know very well. Joe and Elisa Tobey of Corning, New York. Tragically, the Tobias lost their son, Matt, to suicide. They shared their story of how he asked for help, couldn't receive it, really how our state failed him. But they took that tragedy and wanted to help other families so they have to experience the same thing.
Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and we have a lot to cover this morning. In the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking with our friends from Keuka College. You'll want to stay tuned for that. On tomorrow's broadcast, we'll be talking about the Music Man coming up at the Clemens Center. Okay. Let's get right to it because we had some comments from viewers over the weekend. Hi, Frank. Well, hello. Hope you had a great weekend. I hope you did as well. My question is, do you happen to know a way to get the email addresses of particularly Democrats who live in the New York City area? Republicans, too, just to remind them that they need to get out and vote. Us Republicans need to take over, to take back our democracy. We don't need radicals or communists in our government, let alone communists who ran or who came from other countries. Just a reminder, please remember to tell your listeners and viewers to vote. Yes, we actually have the primary. It's going to be very interesting. The primary on June 23rd, because the areas that have a Republican primary and our Democrats have comptroller and Congress. Keep that in mind. If you are a Democrat, you're going to want to go out on the 23rd and pick your candidate for comptroller and pick your candidate for Congress. But on the Republican side, it's just local elections, and it's going to be tough to get out the vote. If you're in the town of Campbell, Corning, Irwin, Lindley, Rathbone, you need to remember to get out and vote. Now, in Campbell, it's for town supervisor. In Corning, the town of Corning, it's town justice. In Irwin, it's for council member. In Lindley, it's for town supervisor and highway superintendent. In Rathbone, it's for a council member as well. So tell your friends, tell your family, don't forget to get out and vote on primary day. But as to email addresses, I'm not sure if you join and volunteer for Bruce Blakeman's campaign for governor, I'm sure one of the things that you can do is get a list of phone numbers and call around Election Day in November to remind people to get out and vote. I know that is a common thing that candidates do, so maybe that's one way. All right, comment from a different viewer. Listeners, viewers, call all your representatives to make upstate the 51st state. Thank you in advance. Thank you. Morning, Frank. Morning to you. Saw in this morning's news that there is a federal lawsuit to prevent the UFC fight at the White House. Didn't catch who initiated it, but I think it would go without saying that no, the Democrat Party is involved. Talk about TDS. Yeah, we're going to mention that in just a moment. Everything is a lawsuit against Trump, isn't it? Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Steve. Imagine that. Somehow Pratt is in third place now. Not hard to rig elections to control power in California or New York. We're going to talk about that as well. Yes, the numbers have changed drastically to the point where now Spencer Pratt is in third place. We're going to mention that in just a moment. But breaking news. Oh, here we go. Comment from a different viewer. From Steve. I'm sorry. How could anybody that pulled in single digits suddenly take over second place in the California-Los Angeles mayor's race? That is a fantastic question, Steve. Even the president weighing in on it, it does look clearly rigged at this point. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But breaking last night, Israel strikes back at Iran military targets hours after the missile barrage over Lebanon attack. The Israeli Defense Forces said its air force struck targets belonging to the Iranian terror regime in western and central Iran in a statement that was released yesterday evening. Iran state media separately reported that explosions were heard in Tehran, Tabriz, Isfahan, after Israel fired air-launched ballistic missiles, citing the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Israeli military hit Iranian surface-to-surface missile launch sites and non-energy infrastructure, Israel's ambassador to the U.S. said. Nearly 2 hours later, the Israeli Air Force said it was intercepting a missile from the direction of Yemen toward Israeli territory. Now, Ambassador Mike Huckabee, of course we all know Mike Huckabee's name, he said, "In the shelter now, hearing loud booms overhead. Hopefully it's the interception. Another day we live under threat of crazed Iranian regime." He also said earlier in the day, Iran fired missiles at Israel last night and early today. The missile alert sounded at 6 a.m. in Jerusalem. They were intercepted, thank God. Iran and its proxy agents of evil want to incinerate America and Israel. Mothership of Satan is in Tehran. Now, President Trump urged restraint, saying that they are very close to a deal. "I'm going to call Netanyahu right now and tell him not to strike back," Trump told Axios. "We are very close to a final deal with Iran. It is going to be a good deal. I don't want it to blow up because of what is happening now. What I would suggest to Iran, you've shot your missiles, that's enough. Get back to the table and make a deal. We won't have any choice," Trump said. "I call the shots. I call all the shots. He doesn't call the shots," meaning Benjamin Netanyahu. "I think the deal is going on. We'll see what happens. The deal may make it on its own merit or not, but this will not have any effect on it." Yes. Hold on. Oh, no, our roof camera is down this morning. Uh-oh. All right. Trump insists Israel's Netanyahu won't have any choice in accepting the Iran peace deal, as I mentioned, saying that he calls the shots. Iran fired at least 10 missiles at Israel on Sunday, hours after the Israeli Defense Forces launched its own attack on a Hezbollah command center in Beirut. Trump told the Financial Times that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will have to accept any ceasefire deal that the U.S. brokers because he doesn't call the shots. Netanyahu won't have any choice. I call the shots. I call all the shots. He doesn't call the shots. Trump assured that Sunday's shakeup, which effectively terminated a delicate ceasefire Israel and Lebanon agreed to just last week, will not have any impact on U.S.-Iran negotiations. The deal may make it on its own merit or not, but this will not have any effect on it. Earlier on Sunday, Trump told Fox News that he wasn't happy about Israel's brazen attack on Beirut after he had told Netanyahu to stand down, but he recognized that Iran's latest blow wasn't going to help negotiations either. What I would suggest to Iran, you've shot your missiles, that's enough, get back to the table and make a deal. All right, so there's your update on Iran, and Israel, and the United States. To the viewer's point, the Associated Press is reporting that there is a lawsuit that would stop the UFC fight on the White House lawn. That happens, it says here, for Trump's birthday, but it's also Flag Day coming up next Sunday. I'm not sure. It must just be because it's on Trump's birthday and Flag Day that they had it on Sunday. Kind of inconvenient. Well past many of ours bedtimes. But a federal lawsuit seeks to halt the upcoming UFC fight card on the White House lawn. The filing Saturday by the Public Integrity Project on behalf of 2 Virginia residents contends the Trump administration's authorization of the June 14th event was unlawful. The lawsuit says such approval violated National Park Service regulations prohibiting sporting events on federal parklands. Congress did not consent to the towering arc overlooking the event space, and no environmental review was conducted before the construction. I think to that viewer's comment, definitely reeks of TDS here, just wanting to be a fly in the ointment for anything Trump does. Brendan Ballou, a lawyer for the plaintiff, said this is fundamentally a private, commercial, corrupt use of our most sacred national monuments for private gain, and that is what is motivating the lawsuit. The White House said in a statement that the legal challenge was an obstructionist, baseless attempt to prevent Trump from hosting the fight, and the event was no different than the various other White House-hosted events on the South Lawn and properly permitted events on the Ellipse and National Mall throughout the year. Now, UFC did not immediately respond to a request for comment. They've got to be a little worried because they have a lot of money invested in this free fight. Crews are erecting an octagon-shaped cage on the South Lawn. Trump has said the finished UFC project will feature a 5,000-seat arena right outside the front door of the White House. Additional large screens broadcasting the fights will be set up in a park at the nearby Ellipse, and the UFC has said it plans to issue as many as 85,000 free tickets to accommodate spectators at both locations. The Octagon and surrounding structures are the latest project in the White House building boom Trump is leading. So again, a lawsuit filed by 2 Virginia residents to stop the UFC fights on the White House South Lawn. I guess the only surprise to that is that the lawsuit waited till the very last minute. I guess maybe that is to hope that they can find an activist judge, which in Washington they probably can, find an activist judge that will stop the fight, which of course would mess up everything. Also, speaking of sports, Bruce Blakeman will join Trump tonight to cheer on Knicks at Madison Square Garden for NBA Finals Game 3. The Nassau County executive and gubernatorial candidate confirmed he'll be in Trump's box for Monday's game after a planned face-to-face meeting with the president. Quote, we'll be talking about a lot of things, but number one, we'll be talking about Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Josh Hart. Blakeman was at the 2026 Belmont Stakes as well. Hey, by the way, did anybody win any money on the Belmont with Golden Tempo? Golden Tempo making history now. I know many of you, especially we have a pretty big contingency of horse racing fans in this audience. Disappointing that Golden Tempo did not run in the Preakness. The potential, as we see now, with a good-looking horse, could have been a Triple Crown winner. But Golden Tempo winning on Saturday. But Blakeman was there as well, but now he's going to join Trump at the Knicks game tonight. The Knicks' first NBA Finals home game in 27 years has drawn New Yorkers of all political persuasions. It's being reported that Zohran Mamdani plans to attend the game, not with the president. Probably less glamorous seats. Tickets are going for $7,000 for the game. That's nosebleed tickets, folks. Mamdani's ally, Hassan Piker, a far-left influencer, is also planning to attend the Knicks game. Trump, for his part, is attending as a guest of Knicks owner James Dolan. He'll be the first sitting president to attend an NBA Finals game, and security at the Garden is expected to be tight. But Trump is no stranger to Knicks games as a born and raised New Yorker, and his pre-presidency life as a tabloid fixture, often sitting courtside with other celebrities such as MASH actor Elliot Gould. Blakeman has highlighted his close relationship with Trump as he seeks to block Governor Hochul from another term. Governor Hochul recently gave an interview, too, by the way, where she said she never planned on running for office. I mean, we know she was in Congress for a little while. But as we said on Friday's broadcast, you can tell by Governor Hochul's demeanor that she was never meant to be at that level of power. Andrew Cuomo picked her so that she would never take the spotlight from him, wouldn't be a threat to his governor, to being governor. And yeah, here she is, and proving day in and day out that she is just not ready for prime time. We've got a couple other oddball stories to catch you up on. Your thoughts on the UFC fight lawsuit. Your thoughts on the Knicks game tonight. Will you be watching? Also, your thoughts on the Belmont. Stay with us. We got to take a short break, though. We're just getting warmed up on this Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. A warm start to what will be a rather summery week ahead. A good 10 degrees above average with mostly sunny skies, topping off around 87 for our Monday. Lows in the upper 50s with rather clear skies into Tuesday. Then upper 80s and low 90s on Tuesday. We will find ourselves with some thunderstorm potential beginning in the middle of the week and then staying a bit more active, but still rather hot with 90s expected Thursday and Friday.
Little technical difficulties on our roof cam this morning, but we welcome you back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Here's one for you. I know every once in a while we start the broadcast with a scary story or a eerie story. Well, two filmmakers claim to have unexpectedly filmed stunning footage of a mysterious creature known as America's Loch Ness Monster. Richard Rossi and Kelly Tabor filmed a children's movie based on Champ, the mythical serpent-like beast that for decades has been rumored to lurk in the 125-mile-long Lake Champlain, which straddles upstate New York, Vermont, and parts of Quebec. But it was only when they were editing parts of the footage 2 years later that they saw something swimming behind their small boat. When I saw it like a skinny neck, and that the body got larger. It looked like the skinny neck was oscillating back and forth as it was grazing underwater. My eyes were just popping out. Rossi and Tabor called him over to review the footage for their movie Lucy and the Lake Monster, which left him stunned. The video caught the attention of the History Channel's hit series The Unexplained, whose producers told the filmmakers that the clip is the strongest visual evidence of Champ since the 1977 photograph. The video is notable because it allows the long-rumored monster to be seen in scale next to the 11-foot bow and frame. Hundreds of sightings have been reported over the years, with the first notable occurrence all the way back in 1819 when Captain Crumb claimed to have encountered a creature 187 feet long with the head of a seahorse. In 1873, the New York Times published a story that a railroad crew had seen the head of a scaly, enormous serpent in the lake. Showman P.T. Barnum subsequently offered a $50,000 reward for the monster the same year to add to his circus. Sightings continued over the years, and in the 80s, state legislators in both New York and Vermont passed resolutions protecting Champ, just in case the monster actually exists. Tabor grew up near Port Henry, New York, which is considered to be Champ's home, as hundreds of people have reported seeing it there. She said as a girl she would always scan the lake for Champ and believes she may have encountered the creature while sitting on the porch of her parents' lakefront cabin. Quote, there was a big stirring out a little ways from the porch. The wake wasn't going from the left or the right. It was bearing up and down. It was a straight way, at least an inch high, coming straight at us. But suddenly it changed direction. It came right towards the cabin and it made a 90-degree turn. I like to believe I saw the effects of Champ. There you go. A little bit different this morning. Not everything is doom and gloom. We are going to talk about Spencer Pratt now in third place, what that means, where the race for LA mayor stands. But I'm sure by now you've seen that President Trump stormed off of Meet the Press with his interview with NBC's Kristen Welker. A visibly agitated President Trump stormed off his interview with NBC News' Meet the Press after a testy exchange with a reporter who grilled him over his claims that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Trump lashed out at a moderator, Kristen Welker, after she insisted he failed to provide a shred of evidence about his disputed accusations that the 2020 election was rigged against him or that the elections in California are subject to malfeasance. You're a one-sided, crooked network, he told Kristen Welker. Let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time. Welker pleaded with Trump to continue, recalling how she trekked over to Wisconsin for the interview, whining that she had to go all the way to Wisconsin for the interview. I sat in the rain with you for an hour, she grumbled. On and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press, he said. A country can never be great with a dishonest press. After airing that testy exchange, Welker revealed that she spoke with Trump afterwards, and he agreed to do a follow-up interview with her, though it's not clear when. Welker claimed that she and Trump acknowledged complications caused by the rain during the interview that aired on Sunday. The interview had started to get testy towards the final 6 minutes when Welker pressed Trump on a proposed $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche confirmed to lawmakers last week that the Justice Department scrapped the controversial fund, but some skeptics raised concerns that it could be revived. Trump called the fund a great idea and said he'd be disappointed if it doesn't get approved. Welker then pressed Trump about whether January 6, 2021 Capitol rioters would be able to get money from a hypothetical anti-weaponization fund. He said, now, I don't know what's going to happen with the weaponization fund. I love the idea. People like stupid former President Joe Biden, he's not smart enough to know what's going on. But people that surrounded him, what they did to the lives of people, they destroyed people. They sent people to jail who did nothing wrong. Welker shot back that there's no evidence of what you're saying and tried to pivot to a question about Blanche instead. Wouldn't it be interesting, to Trump's point, wouldn't it be interesting if Welker would ever say that to a Democrat, pushing some type of conspiracy theory, saying that there's no evidence of what you're saying? Of course not. She would let the Democrat get away without whatever they're saying. Trump said the election was rigged. It was a dirty election. The NBC host noted that Trump hasn't presented evidence to prove his dubious claims. Eventually, after a tense exchange, Trump opted to cut the interview short. The bias in the media on full scale. Okay, we're going to talk about Spencer Pratt when we return. We do have some New York State updates. I forgot to mention, as I said, we'll be talking with Keuka College. Keuka College's president in the 7 o'clock hour. But we do have a couple quick updates from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano that was sent to me Friday. They were from Thursday or Friday in Albany. I can't remember exact the date. It'll show it on the bottom of the screen. But we're going to play that in this hour. Maybe if we run late, maybe the next hour. So stay with us. We still got a lot to cover. Keep those waves. We're already up to 8. Keep those waves. Keep those comments coming in. Your thoughts on the lawsuit against the UFC. Your thoughts on Spencer Pratt now being knocked out of second place to third place. I mean, it was almost as if all the mail-in ballots went completely his opponent's way. Well, we're going to talk about those numbers when we return. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Give kids time. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
What would you do with free gas for a year? Would you take the long way home? Take a road trip with your best friend? Or find somewhere you've never seen before? Because sometimes the best memories aren't planned. They're the ones waiting at the end of the road. Enter to win free gas for a year through the Quick Fill Fueling Discovery Summer Giveaway. Get ready for endless adventures ahead.
Join at Post Parks and Arts for Colonial Days 2026. Come celebrate America's 250th anniversary with a weekend full of fun. Kick things off with the Miss Colonial Days pageant on June 11th. Rock the block on June 12th and enjoy the craft fair, parade, chicken barbecue, and more on June 13th. Wrap up the weekend with a fireworks extravaganza. We'll see you there.
Being a boy, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. It was great to see Golden Tempo win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. Although he missed the chance of the Triple Crown by skipping the Preakness, I fully understand that decision. It's very demanding to have a horse return to a big race with only 2 weeks rest. Also, with the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga instead of Belmont Park, critics may have gathered even if he won the Triple Crown. The racing industry has some work to do. That's a good point. They may have put an asterisk on it, being that it was at Saratoga. I'm excited to see what Belmont looks. I know taxpayers spent a lot. New York spent a lot on the Belmont, but it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like. The last mock-up or draw-up of it that I saw, it looked beautiful. I understand the decision, I suppose. Obviously you have the biggest 3 races in horse racing, right? I mean, that's not even close to a controversial statement. And the problem is when you take away the chance for a Triple Crown, a lot of people aren't tuning in. It doesn't help build up the race, and that's disappointing. Think about just how few people maybe in your day-to-day life were talking about the Belmont. It was a great race. Golden Tempo is a really impressive horse. Just disappointing. But I understand what you're saying. It's just disappointing that there was not even an option there for a Triple Crown, which would have been nice. Okay. Comment from a different viewer. So far, the race for mayor and the 2020 election is that thousands of uncounted ballots suddenly appear after the fact. Thank you very much. Yes, let's talk about it. Nithya Raman has overtaken Spencer Pratt for the first time in the race for second place in the mayor's contest in Los Angeles. New results released by Los Angeles County show Raymond with 196,190 votes. That's 27.12%. Compared with Pratt's 193,085 votes, or 26.69. The latest tally gives Raman a 3,113 vote lead after she trailed Pratt by 7,494 votes just 1 day earlier. Get this, Raman picked up 19,096 votes in Sunday's count, more than double Pratt's gain of 8,489. The latest batch of ballots produced a 10,607 vote swing between the two candidates, erasing Pratt's advantage and moving Raman into second place. Think of that, a 10,607 vote swing. Mayor Karen Bass remained in first place. The turnaround marks a remarkable shift from election night when Pratt appeared well-positioned to secure a runoff spot. As additional ballots have been counted over the past week, Rahman has steadily narrowed the gap before finally moving ahead on Sunday. Pratt took a dig at Rahman's homeless record after the new ballots dropped, citing a homeless report showing over 43,000 people are homeless in LA on any given night in 2025. He said, quote, a net swing of more than 43,000 votes since Tuesday. 43,000, huh? Where have I seen that number before? Probably nothing. Very good point by Spencer Pratt. Political observers have long noted that ballots counted later in California's election often come from younger and more progressive voters, a demographic that has been a key source of support for Rahman. The latest results arrived at scrutiny of Los Angeles County's slow vote counting process continued to grow. Over the weekend, social media users circulated claims that one candidate has received 0 votes in an election night ballot update. The allegation drew the attention of federal officials after U.S. Attorney Bill Esley reviewed the claim, saying there was a claim circulating on social media about an election night ballot update at the Los Angeles Register of Voters where one candidate received 0 votes. We reviewed official county records. The claim is false. Each candidate received votes in every update. My office will continue monitoring the election counting process and will follow the evidence wherever it leads. Okay. The only difference between the two, so far, the race for mayor in the 2020 election is that thousands of uncounted ballots suddenly appeared after the fact. Okay. Before the latest results were released, Pratt posted a photo of Rahman and wrote, remember everyone, we are still in the lead and we've still got all the way till July 6th to keep counting. They're not the only ones who know where to find votes. Good for Pratt. Rahman said, we are encouraged by the latest vote count and remain grateful to the thousands of Angelinos who have powered this campaign. Bass campaign spokesman, Karen Bass campaign spokesman, Alex Stack said if Rahman maintains the position, Mayor Bass looks forward to winning a contest against an opponent who allows encampments near schools and fights against hiring more cops, yet is MIA on saving Hollywood jobs and fighting back when ICE invades LA. Okay. Sunday's update brought Los Angeles County to 83% of the ballots counted. California counties have until early July to complete and certify their election results. Now, according to results reported by the Associated Press, for the governor's race, Xavier Becerra increased his total from 1,732,755 votes, or 26.8%. Anyway, we don't need to go through all that. Now, so overtaking Spencer Pratt, socialist Neitha Rahman might be familiar with a phrase widely misattributed to Joseph Stalin. Quote, it's not the people who vote that count, it's the people who count the votes. Not much voting went on in the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, so Stalin probably didn't say that. But the point about counting the vote stands. On Sunday evening, Rahman overtook challenger Spencer Pratt for second place. The trend seems likely to continue. We would like to report the ballots counted thus far as percentage of the total cast, but unfortunately we cannot. Ballots are still being accepted if they were postmarked by June 2nd. So no one knows exactly how many ballots there are because the numbers keep growing. They aren't being counted at the precinct level, but in a massive centralized counting facility. And of course, they have to get there first. There's no evidence of fraud, just proof of a massively flawed design. There's not one other democracy in the world that runs this way, nor is there another state within the U.S. that does. But California stands by its system. And why wouldn't it? Everything about it suits incumbents just fine. Remember that in 2022, voters who wanted to recall unpopular LA County District Attorney George Gascon handed in 26% more than the required number of signatures. County officials then reported that 27% of the signatures were invalid, just enough to disqualify the recall. What a coincidence. And observers weren't allowed to watch the signature verification process. Surely another coincidence. In the end, Gascon lost his re-election campaign in a landslide to Nathan Hawkman. Ultimately, the will of the people prevailed. But the margin was so huge, almost 20 points, that there was no room for doubt. In a close election, we cannot have a process that works this way. The people defending the system today because they like the results will one day be on the receiving end, especially if it is fight among Democrats who know all the tricks. Rahman, despite being 7 points behind on June 2nd, has now made up that seemingly insurmountable margin. If she qualifies for the general election, congratulations and good luck. One word of advice: remember that there are hundreds of thousands of Pratt voters. They could be the swing voters in this election. Mock their disappointment at your political peril. But the race does remain uncalled. It's not over yet. The California primary ended on June 2nd, yet California is still counting ballots, said a statement by the RNC. The state's election system is a complete joke. The RNC is tracking every hour it takes California to finish the count. Now, who is this exactly? Well, they said the question to the rest of the world is what happened to California elections. Well, I'll tell you, it's Gavin Newsom. When Gavin Newsom was elected governor of California, you knew who was elected in a day or 2 days. Now it takes more than weeks, almost a month. Why did we get here? Gavin changed a number of election laws in which you want to see is what he did. What? In which you want to see is what he did do and why did he cause it. Now, Trump blasted the California elections as crooked and a blistering tirade and threatened great trouble and consternation if the Republicans are locked out of the general election. Has anybody been watching the crooked election going on in California? Two great Republican candidates are being cheated, and so is America, which is the Democrats are able to fulfill their mission. Great trouble and consternation will follow. Watch this, quote, election closely, he said on Truth Social. Now, Trump previously claimed that Democrats were trying to steal the elections and announced a probe into the sluggish voting count. Pratt was overtaken by far-left Democrat Neither Raymond, as we know already. And as I said, Spencer Pratt calling out the fact that the 43,000 votes, about the same exact number of homeless people in LA on any given day. So again, President Trump saying, has anybody been watching the crooked election going on in California? Two great Republican candidates are being cheated, and so is America, which, if the Democrats are able to fulfill their mission, great trouble and consternation will follow. Watch this election closely. President Donald J. Trump. Many people are saying the world is laughing at California's inability to count votes in a timely manner. Where is Gavin Newsom on this? The snail-like pace of the vote counting process in California is just another example of the incompetence and uselessness of the state government. It's a good point. That is a really good point. Just like their sole response to the wildfires. Now, John Fleischman says, look at LA. And he goes through the numbers that I just read for you. It says this is a live campaign being reshaped after Election Day. The election was Tuesday, yet California voters will spend much of next week and in some contests longer waiting for ballots to arrive. Will be transferred, verified, and counted. It leaves voters confused, campaigns stalled, and candidates stuck in limbo when they should be preparing for the next stage of the race. This has become normal in California. It should not be. Elections are supposed to have a finish line. California has built a system where Election Day often marks the beginning of the final counting period, not the moment when the public can expect a result. But California's endless election calendar may soon collide with federal law. The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to release more opinions this month as it finishes its term. One pending case could fundamentally alter how California handles vote-by-mail ballots. California law allows vote-by-mail ballots to arrive up to 7 days after Election Day and still be counted as long as they are postmarked on time. The state has also built in other delays. A voter can return a ballot in any county in California, no matter where that voter is registered, meaning an Orange County ballot dropped in San Francisco must be forwarded before it can be counted. Several days after Californians voted, state officials reported that more than 3.6 million ballots still remain to be processed and counted statewide. That is not a system designed to bring contests to swift conclusions. It's a system designed to maximize flexibility, even at the cost of certainty. Sacramento calls it access. Many voters call it endless counting. The case before the Supreme Court is Watson v. Republican National Committee. The question is direct. When Congress established National Election Day for federal offices, did it mean ballots must be received by Election Day or merely mailed by Election Day? During oral arguments in March, Justice Samuel Alito warned that confidence in election outcomes can be seriously undermined when the apparent result on election night is later flipped by a large batch of late arriving ballots, which is exactly what's happened in the LA mayor's race. Justice Kavanaugh likewise pressed attorneys on whether history supports requiring ballots to be received by Election Day. Their questioning reflected broad skepticism from the court's conservative majority. Sacramento should be paying attention. Most Americans understand Election Day to mean the deadline. California's system tells them otherwise. When vote totals keep changing for days after the polls close, suspicion naturally grows because the process looks like it has no real endpoint. The delays also affect campaigns. Candidates advancing to the general election should be raising money, hiring staff, sharpening their message, and preparing for November. Instead, many wait on final results and who their opponent will actually be. Time matters in politics. California routinely wastes it. If the Supreme Court rules that federal ballots must be received by Election Day, California will face a difficult choice. State leaders could bring the entire system into compliance with one deadline, or try to maintain one rule for federal races and another for state and local contests on the same ballot. That would confuse voters, burden county election officials, and invite more litigation. Sacramento will almost certainly look for ways to preserve as much of the current system as possible. That is what Sacramento does. But federal law may leave them fewer options than they are used to having. For years, California has treated Election Day less as a deadline than as a suggestion. The system increasingly characterizes voters or voting as something that should require almost no effort, no planning, and no firm deadline. But voting is not just another consumer convenience. It is a civic duty. A serious right deserves a serious process. Asking voters to return a ballot by Election Day is not voter suppression. It's a basic expectation in a self-governing republic. If the Supreme Court concludes that Election Day means what the words actually say, California will be forced to rediscover something it has spent years trying to blur. Elections need deadlines, and Election Day should be one of them. All right, so we could keep talking about Spencer Pratt if you would like. Oh my goodness, look at all these comments. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. We got to take a short break. We'll read your comments. Keep counting those waves. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Hey, backseat passengers. What's your excuse for not buckling up?
Babe, put your seatbelt on.
The number one excuse?
It's just a short trip.
You know what else is a short trip? From the back seat to the windshield. Backseat passengers who don't buckle up are twice as likely to die in a crash as those who do. So instead of making excuses, make your life longer. Buckle up. Every trip, every seat.
Tens of thousands of New Yorkers live in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. Their neighbors, friends, and family members. When they feel their well-being is jeopardized, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program is there to help. Ombudsmen educate, empower, and advocate for long-term care residents. They investigate complaints, resolve issues, and facilitate improvements. Long-term care residents or their loved ones who have questions or concerns should contact AIM Independent Living Center at 962-8225.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. A warm start to what will be a rather summery week ahead. A good 10 degrees above average with mostly sunny skies, topping off around 87 for our Monday. Lows in the upper 50s with rather clear skies into Tuesday. Then upper 80s and low 90s on Tuesday. We will find ourselves with some thunderstorm potential beginning in the middle of the week and then staying a bit more active, but still rather hot with 90s expected Thursday and Friday.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Our roof camera is down temporarily. We'll get that restarted for tomorrow's broadcast. Okay, let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Hey, Mark. Good morning to you, too. Pratt doesn't stand a chance as California's voting is rigged. If someone is gaining on a Democrat, they send illegal mail-in votes. I think they should make mail-in voting illegal. Thank you, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. Did you notice that Hochul skipped the Belmont Stakes? But Bruce Blakeman attended. I found that interesting. Maybe the animal rights people have been barking at her. Yeah, that's a good point, because normally as governor, you normally attend that. We saw it with the Derby, and they make that, that announcement, congratulations, and hand over the trophy. It gives them a little free publicity. I was surprised by the fact that Hochul wasn't there. I was encouraged to see Bruce Blakeman. If you missed the beginning of the program, Bruce Blakeman will also be tonight at the Knicks game with President Trump. So I thought it was a good choice from him to be at the Belmont. Okay, a recent poll has showed Vice President J.D. Vance and former Vice President Kamala Harris dominating within their own parties among potential 2028 candidates. The recent presidential poll showed Harris at 37% and Vance at 38%, according to political polls. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was just under Vance with 18%, and Donald Trump Jr. polled at 10%. Rubio recently said he would be the first to support Vance if he ran for president in 2028, and it is unlikely Don Jr. will run. Therefore, if one were to add Rubio and Don Jr.'s numbers to Vance's percentage, since those two are likely to support Vance, then from the get-go, it would show Vance starting with a dominant majority of Republicans at 66%, with the total of those three combined. President Trump commented this week saying, "So I watched them together. They get along great. They have a good relationship. They're sort of similar in a lot of ways, but they're very talented. I think the two of them running together as a team would be very unbeatable. I would think that JD and Marco as a team would be very hard to beat when you compare that to those low IQ people that we have on the other side." So kind of interesting, just a new poll. Now, we had brought to you this the recent poll showing that people kind of have a lack in faith in the country and their community. Well, the New York Post editorial board, this came out Friday, so it's a little bit late, but I saved it, put it aside because I wanted to mention it as an update from kind of a constant conversation we have here about building community, building pride in our country. Pride in being an American drops the younger you get, a new Quinnipiac poll confirms, a fact that confirms what a terrible job older generations have done at teaching the young, or rather what a horrible successful job one part of those generations, the left, has done as smearing a country that in fact remains the most free and successful nation the world has ever known. The Quinnipiac poll numbers from a sample of over 1,300 adults nationwide are stark. Do you consider yourself a proud American? Overall, it's yes by 73% to 22%. No, but the divide narrows over time. For those over 65, it's 91-17, dropping steadily among younger people to just 56 to 27 among those aged 18 to 34. No surprise, Republicans are much more likely to be proud, 97%, than Democrats, 61%, which neatly points to where the negatives come from. Starting in the late 60s, the left has come to dominate American universities and K-12 curriculum too. This is what we talked about, I believe it was on Friday's broadcast, but it might have been Thursday's. Emphasizing the country's imperfections without the important context of what every other nation has managed to achieve. And indeed, all too often promoting outright lies, as in the New York Times produced 1619 curriculum that massively misrepresents slavery as the country's hidden true founding principle, rather than a horrific deviation from those principles that even slaveholding founding fathers regretted. To be clear, it's not at all wrong to teach kids about Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, the list goes on and on here, or Joe McCarthy, or the Rosenbergs, who were guilty, by the way. But don't leave out Andrew Jackson, Lewis and Clark, Sam Houston, George Marshall, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and so on, not to mention Alexander Hamilton. Democrats from Jackson to FDR to JFK would be appalled at how little pride modern Democrats have in this country. Remember that the United States saved the world twice last century, first from the Nazis and then from the Soviet communists. This century where freedom's best hope against the global tyranny sought by the Chinese Communist Party. Every one of us should be proud of that. And yes, it is a free country. Everyone has a right to think what they will. But really, that's another reason to take pride in it. I thought that was a good way to encompass that we talked about last week. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page Page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Let me ask you a question. Does it matter if the law firm you hire focuses on motor vehicle accidents? Has the experience to take on big insurance? Will go to court to win? Has won over $1 billion for their clients? If that matters to you, come to William Mattar. We are the largest motor vehicle accident firm in the state. Call William Mattar for the recovery you deserve. Hurt in a car, it matters who you hire.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show you.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Every critical thinking American knows that the mail-in ballot system is open to fraud. Maybe we could fix the problem by giving every eligible citizen a mail-in ballot. Ooh. We are required to be included in the census. Maybe we should be required to vote. The left would be finished if you look at red versus blue. The only thing I don't like about that is, I mean, it's a right to vote. You should have to take a little bit of action to vote. That's one of the criticisms about the mail-in ballot system in California, it being after Election Day. There should be a few little hurdles that you have to go vote, which is actually vote on Election Day. It's scary. It's also here in New York State. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called early vote by mail. So what can happen is, let's say you move out of state and you just never re-register. You could actually contact New York, and it's not in the old days with an absentee ballot where you had to have some proof of why you couldn't vote. You know, I'm going to be out of town, I'm sick, whatever the case may be. Now, no questions asked. You can say, hey, I want a mail-in ballot, and I'm in New York, my address is whatever, and you could be living 3 states over and still vote in New York's no questions asked mail-in ballot. Hey, did you see over the weekend, this is so sick, a sicko dressed as Charlie Kirk protested an event hosted by the assassinated activist's widow, Erica Kirk. That activist then reenacted his murder as crowds chanted, "He deserved to die." Think of how radical the left has become. Because they disagree with what Charlie Kirk had to say, he, quote, deserved to die. The protester was seen at the Turning Point USA conference in San Antonio, Texas, wearing a papier-mâché head made to resemble the slain Charlie Kirk, with the demonstrator suddenly collapsing on the floor as if to mock Charlie's assassination last September. The protester pulled the stunt in front of attendees at the Turning Point USA Women's Leadership Summit on Friday, days after someone was charged with threatening to kill Erica Kirk at such an event. During the sick stunt, a man on a megaphone could be heard shouting at conference attendees, quote, "You are protecting pedophiles. You are protecting Nazis." Social media footage also captured fellow protesters celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination as they shouted, "Deserved to die." The demonstrators then joined the rest of the protesters booing Erica Kirk, who was leading Friday's summit. The widow, who succeeded her slain husband as CEO of Turning Point USA, also faced a heckler inside the San Antonio Marriott River Center. Erica Kirk protects pedophiles. Erica Kirk protects pedophiles, the woman screamed before being removed from the event. What does that mean? Kirk took a moment from her speech to address the heckler, urging the woman to change her ways and find real happiness. Quote, "It's important to remember that happiness comes and goes, and I pray that you find it." That's an important moment because that just shows duty of faithfulness, giving life meaning. And we must pray for our enemies and those who do not feel like their life has meaning. And that's a perfect example of that. A perfect example. You pray for your enemies. You pray for those that persecute you. Wow. By the way, police arrested Jacob Wensky, 26, who was charged with 2 felony counts of making a terroristic threat, causing public fear as he threatened Erica Kirk's life. But a sicko dressing up as Charlie Kirk as he reenacts the assassination, as the crowd chanted, "He deserved to die." That's how radical the far left has become. We got to take a short break. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. As you can tell, as I'm running out of time, we will hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano in the next hour. We'll also hear from Keuka College. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Join Painted Post Parks and Arts for Colonial Days 2026. Come celebrate America's 250th anniversary with a weekend full of fun. Kick things off with the Miss Colonial Days pageant on June 11th. Rock the block on June 12th and enjoy the craft fair, parade, chicken barbecue, and more on June 13th. Wrap up the weekend with a fireworks extravaganza. We'll see you there.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you for joining us this morning. Comment from a viewer: in response to Iran and Houthi ballistic missile attacks, this morning the Israeli Air Force struck military targets belonging to the Iranian regime in western and central Iran. Yes, we mentioned that at the beginning of the broadcast. Now, Trump, it is being reported, Trump says that Israel and Iran must stop shooting after the airstrikes rock Tehran. Israel and Iran must immediately stop shooting, Trump wrote in a brief post on Truth Social. There was no immediate word of if there were any casualties. The attacks by Iran against Israel were the first since the implementation of a ceasefire on April 8th. There was no indication that the U.S. would restart military operations against Tehran as a result. Israeli forces struck a military center in Tabriz, but local officials said there was no casualties, according to the IRNA. So, again, stop shooting. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. Comment from a viewer: the scary thing regarding the radical left is they have begun to come out of the closet and now have a strong insurgence into our government. Yeah, like look at Zohran Mamdani. Look at even the woman who took over second place in the L.A. mayor's race, a self-avowed socialist. What's radical? Look at the guy running in Maine with all his scandals. What was once radical, kind of behind-the-scenes talk, is now right out there and actually looked at as a positive for Democrats, positive to run on, that far left socialism. So you're right, it's no longer kind of that hidden back room party where you said, well, there seems to be, as Van Jones said, a marbling of anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party. Now that seems to be, sadly, a talking point that you run on, that you want to be seen as the most anti-Semitic. That's troubling. And that's just one example. Now you have these protesters out there in the open. Well, I think, do I have time for this? Yeah, Bill Maher ripped into the musicians who dropped out of President Trump's America 250 concert series, arguing that the move makes it look like Democrats don't really love America. Well, look at the polling numbers. They don't, according to the polls. The backlash came after several performers, including Martina McBride, Bret Michaels, the Commodores, Morris Day, CNC Music Factory, and Young MC, pulled out of the Great American State Fair festivities in Washington. They all pulled out, Bill Maher said. This is a question about what looks best for the Democrats, because I don't think that looks good. It looks like you're just what people say about you, that you don't really love America. It looks like you think Trump is more important than the country itself. He argued that the performers made a mistake by abandoning the event, celebrating America's 250th birthday, and said their exit only turned it into a full-blown MAGA rally. He's right. Now it's just a big MAGA rally, this whole thing. Now it's Trump and Lee Greenwood. Wouldn't it have been better to play this gig? Can't we all just celebrate America itself and leave Trump out of it? Now, if you recall last week, Trump wrote, "We don't want singers with no talent, but big fees to put you to sleep. We've told them to all stay home. All we want is you, me, a few speakers, and the greatest music ever played, the same music you have listened to for years." As we mentioned, Lee Greenwood will be at the event, as well as Christopher Machio and the U.S. Army Band, Armed Forces Choir, U.S. Marine Band, and Joint Armed Forces Chorus will perform all of your favorite hits. Plus a fine and highly dignified gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump, he said. Freedom 250, created by a Trump executive order to help commemorate America's 250. Previously announced Vanilla Ice, Flo Rida, or Milli Vanilli's Fab Morvan among its original lineup. The free concert series is set to take place over the National Mall from June 25th through July 10th. So Bill Maher, and I think he raises a good point there when it comes to the optics and PR, it makes it look like the Democrats, quote, don't love America. We got to take a short break. We got a lot coming up in the next hour. Stay with us. A couple updates from stories we brought to you last week. A couple New York State updates. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Get more of what you love for less by stacking your savings at Raymore and Flanigan. The deals just keep building. Take 10, 15, or 20% off your purchase. Building your savings across living room, dining room, and bedroom furniture. It's all on sale. And get in-stock items delivered in 3 days or less. Want to buy now and pay over time? Explore our flexible monthly financing plans. More style, more savings with up to 20% off. Only at Raymore and Flanigan.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Some comments from viewers. Trump's failure with Iran is going to split the Israeli alliance. Israel doesn't wait for terrorists to make up their mind. This is a major mistake by Trump. I'm a Republican, and I'm tired of the Iranians leading Trump and Republicans to an election slaughter. Very interesting point. Thank you for that. I know a lot of people are upset. We're kind of in the same mindset that you're saying, so I appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. All those performers who dropped out aren't worth the air they would have consumed. In other words, they stink and aren't worth listening to in the first place. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, did you see the Trump interview with Welker? Yes, we talked about that at the very beginning of the program. That's what he should do with an interviewer that is focused on just trying to cast dispersions on his administration. I laughed when she said she is just a journalist. Yeah, me too. I don't disagree with the move to walk out and meet the press. I really don't. I mean, you can only take so much. And then you see Joe Biden for 4 years being treated with kid gloves. And now you have Trump, obviously, that fact-checking in real time. Speaking of Biden, the Bidens return to the stage online, in bookstores, and at a Best Western in South Dakota. The reemergence of the former First Lady has been fraught for some Democrats who just want to move on. At times halting and hard to understand, at other times yelling clearly at the top of his voice, he tore into the current occupant of the Oval Office as his appalling vanity project. This is in reference to what Joe Biden said. My goodness, Mr. Biden scoffed, tearing down the East Room of the White House to make room for a ballroom more fitting for Versailles. The crowd booed. Or writing his name on the Kennedy Center, or building an arch that will dwarf the Lincoln Memorial, or turning the reflecting pool into something you might see in a theme park. An 83-year-old man who spoke in Sioux Falls would be approaching the halfway mark of his second term in office had things turned out the way he wanted. His speech Friday capped off a week that saw Mr. Biden, his wife, and his son all start to return with a vengeance to the public stage, very much against the wishes of many Democrats, including some former Biden staff members. A little bit of the long knives are coming out for the Bidens now. We're not going to go through each of these, but the reason I bring it up, because we've talked about the Democrats mad that Jill Biden came out and said that it looked like her husband had a stroke during that debate performance. Miranda Devine says you could almost feel sorry for Joe Biden when he crashed his wife Jill's debut book talk in New York last week. Standing in the shadows of the 92nd Street Y and with no microphone in sight, the former president looked lost as he rasped at his wife, "Who do you love most in the whole world?" Up on stage, dressed in a pastel skirt suit in her starring role alongside Whoopi Goldberg, Jill responded, "Whoopi," laughs and turns on her stiletto heel. Maybe it was a comedy routine the former first couple had practiced, but it fell flat. There wasn't much laughter from the audience. Who humiliates her 83-year-old husband in public to try and boost lackluster book sales? Jill Biden, that's who. A 76-year-old egotist who, in her delusional attempts to rewrite history, now claims that she thought Joe, who was having a stroke when he malfunctioned and started babbling more unintelligibly than usual during his first and final debate against Donald Trump almost exactly 2 years ago. Yep, that's exactly what we assumed. Since we have been watching Joe glitch for more than 4 years, despite the best efforts of his American Politburo of minders led by the ambitious Jill to conceal her husband's frailties. How could we miss the baby stairs for Air Force One to try to avoid yet another presidential pratfall? The staff surrounding him to hide his disintegrated gait as he shuffled across the tarmac. The Roomba-like wandering, the slack-jawed vacant stares, the infrequent public appearances, apart from the odd set speech when he was hopped up on the pupil-dilated eyeballs and angrily shouting or whispering, the gigantic teleprompters, the gaslighting and lies. None of it fooled anyone with eyes to see, but Jill is still trying to maintain the fiction that there was nothing wrong, that the debate performance that blew away the emperor's clothes was a one-off, that she had never seen her husband in such a state before or since. That's what I had said at the time was the biggest takeaway from that lie, that was it one time he'd ever acted like that. To this day, I still don't know what happened, she wrote. Why wasn't he making any sense? It was inexplicable to me. I wish I'd thought of asking for a blood test just so we'd know what was in his system. President Trump believes Joe just choked under pressure and doesn't believe Jill version's event. Why would she bring him to a Waffle House if he had had a stroke? Exactly. That's what we had said last week as well. Maybe President Trump was watching. Good question. And after the debate, even though she suspected her husband had suffered a life-threatening health event, and even though he was still zoned out, Jill dragged old Joe over to the anchor desk to schmooze with startled moderators Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Then, instead of taking him to a hospital or home to sleep at 11 p.m., Jill whisked Joe off to a watch party at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Atlanta, where she took to the stage and patronized him in a sing-song voice as if he were a toddler on the potty, saying, "Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts." Then she hauled him off to a Waffle House for a pretend late-night to-go order, where he looked like death warmed up, as his staff tried to tell reporters he just had a cold. Yet still, she didn't let him rest, marching off to the airport to fly to Raleigh, North Carolina for another campaign stop with supporters on the tarmac at 2 a.m. Strange way to treat a husband whose brain misfired so badly in public you thought he was having a stroke. But that's just the way it is with the Bidens. They have all their tall tales, and they stick to them. This again, Miranda Devine. The difference is now Joe has no power, and Democrats are done covering for the Bidens. They're fed up with his selfishness, The grift, the secrets, and lies. Republicans and independents were fed up long ago. Polls showed Joe to be the least popular of any former Democrat president, with a net approval rating of minus 19 points, according to CNN's Harry Enton. And Jill is by far the most unpopular Democrat first lady, 41 points behind Michelle Obama. The American people have one message for the Bidens: go away, said Enton. Joe is an anchor to the Democrat Party and potentially their fortunes in the 2026 midterm elections. Obama podcast bros and assorted Democrat strategists vented their rage all week at Jill and the selfishness of the Bidens, who have reopened old wounds at a time when the party is trying to move on from 2024 and win the midterms. But Joe is still wily like a fox on his good days, and he has one last trump card. That's why pity was the wrong emotion when you watched his awkward hijacking of his wife's event last week. Democrat cleanup merchants rushed out to declare he was wrong, that no publication date has been set when he declared that his book was coming out in September. And surely he wouldn't inflict a score-settling memoir on them on the eve of the midterms. Joe's boast was a threat. You keep beating up on my wife, and I'll haunt the weeks before the midterms to remind everyone why they voted for Trump. And then there's Hunter Biden. The former drug addict's first son has posted incendiary tweets around 500 times since his dramatic return to X last week, along with assorted long podcast interviews with gullible hosts. The Bidens are the wrecking ball Democrats can't escape, and it serves them right. And the award for the most self-aggrandizing, phony performance by a TV journalist goes to Scott Pelley. The fired 60 Minutes legend, in his own mind, appeared in a long weekend interview with the New York Times, oozing with faux gravitas and with tears welling up in his red eyes as he cast himself as a defender of the CBS family, who he claims have been murdered by Barry Wise. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But Trump said Pelley is a stiff who is part of a gang of crooked, stupid people that don't care about our country. That made Pelley mad. Fighting fake tears, he claimed, I've been in combat for this country in Afghanistan and Iraq, Kuwait. I've been shot at. I'm not aware that the President of the United States has ever done any of those things for his country. Donald Trump has been targeted for assassination 3 times, including when a bullet nearly missed killing him in Butler, Pennsylvania, and only nicked him in the ear because he turned his head right in time. Pelley has been a left-wing hack posing as an impartial journalist as long as anyone can remember. He has never been in combat. What a fraud. Like countless other journalists, I also been to war zones in Iraq and Afghanistan on assignment, and never in a million years would I pretend that it was combat. Talk about stolen valor. How embarrassing. CBS was smart to get rid of him. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But when we return, we are going to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, a couple quick clips. Then we're going to hear from Keuka College. You don't want to miss it. I see some comments coming in. We'll get to those as well. I see Hakeem Jeffries over the weekend dodged questions about Graham Plantner. Graham Plantner is the candidate in Maine with the had a Nazi tattoo, the scandal of him, we'll say, texting other women while married to his wife, scandal after scandal. We've got a little bit about him, but Hakeem Jeffries refused to answer questions about him, saying he's going to have to speak for himself. We've got a couple things on that. And if you want to talk about Scott Pelley, I've got some New York State issues as well. Keep commenting on all the things that we're covering this morning. But again, Keuka College coming up a little bit later on. Tomorrow's broadcast, we're going to hear from a cast member from The Music Man. The Music Man is coming to the Clemens Center, so you'll hear all about that. Don't forget, this weekend, it's hard to believe, where is summer going? Colonial Days kicking off this weekend, June 11th, 12th, and 13th. We had that interview about Miss Colonial Days. Don't miss that on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday you see the lineup there. So that's coming up this weekend. We got a lot of events coming up. But stay with us. We got to take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at iqairfoundation.org.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. A warm start to what will be a rather summery week ahead. A good 10 degrees above average with mostly sunny skies, topping off around 87 for our Monday. Lows in the upper 50s with rather clear skies into Tuesday, then upper 80s and low 90s on Tuesday. We will find ourselves with some thunderstorm potential beginning in the middle of the week and then staying a bit more active, but still rather hot with 90s expected Thursday and Friday.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Some comments from viewers. Joe Biden was seen dropping Hunter off at the Waffle House after a drug overdose. Waffles are the new Obamacare. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Shouting pedophile or other shock and awe terms is a desperate tactic to incite psychological diversion and add extra impact to bizarre Democrat actions. In other words, mind games to draw attention away from their absurd behavior and towards agreeing to their outlandish ways and statements. It's all about power and in control over your mind and your vote. And also, I forgot to say good morning, Frank. Well, good morning to you. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, so Jill was wondering the same thing I was wondering for years. Why isn't he making any sense when he talks? On another point, Joe was able to put together a plan to troll the Democrats prior to the midterms by saying he is penning a book for release in September. I'm sorry, but Joe couldn't put enough cogent thoughts together to write a coherent sentence. Yeah, you know it's got to be ghostwriting. But at the same time, they said he is coming out with a book. Jill's was first, and then his was going to come out. And as I said, the media has been saying, no, it's next year. But he, I think, just like he sent the message to the Democrats that stabbed him in the back, that, oh, yeah, I'm going to endorse Kamala Harris right out the gate. See if you can win with her. I think it's very similar to this. You better be nice to my wife. You better be nice to my quote-unquote legacy, or we will release that book in September, just a few short months before the midterms, and I will be doing press releases, press interviews. Yeah, it was a threat. Okay, as I mentioned, we have a couple of quick, and they're relatively quick as compared to last week, but statements from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. This came in Friday, and I want to pass this along to you. Just a couple updates. We have a couple of other issues as well. Now, speaking of Phil Palmisano, well, I'll get to this after we play our clips from Phil.
Welcome to We Know Best Week in the Capitol. Welcome to Political Party Grab Week in the Capitol. It started, my colleague said how many? I think I counted 4, Joe. First, we started with the redistricting amendment that's going to allow gerrymandering of our congressional districts, despite the fact that voters overwhelmingly rejected that, first in 2014 with the creation of the Independent Redistricting Commission, and then again in 2021 when you guys tried to overturn it. Then last night we had the politicalization or the judicial district changes to create more Democratic judges, which was followed up by the language bill, which we were talking about here, that you can write, despite the fact for over 100 years, the bipartisan Board of Elections have been working together to put that language together. You can put whatever language you want in that bill. It is kind of really, it's really atrocious. Why for all these things? Because we know best, you think you know best, and 2, political party grab, a political power grab. And now we have this one, even year elections for everyone, well, except for New York City. Despite what the locals want, there's no talking to the locals, none of those organizations. So now you're gonna have more participation, you say you're gonna have more participation. I think you guys should commit to say we're gonna put this on the ballot in 28, not 27, but you know you're gonna put it on the ballot in 27 because you don't want as much participation in this. you want it more limited. Just like you're going to do the redistricting amendment in 27 for 28, the judicial amendment, and on. And New York City will have a say in this, despite the fact that they rejected this. So now, we're going to create a situation, you're creating a situation where you're going to have vacancies of DAs, county clerks, sheriffs, who will now, when there's that vacancy takes place, be appointed by the governor of this state. I can tell you right now, the people I represent in Steuben County, Yates County, Seneca County, Schuyler County, Chemung County, they do not want this governor appointing the DA, the county clerk, or sheriff of those counties. Emphatically, yes. This bill will allow for the political appointments for governor in impactful positions. My colleague talked about this being a trap door. I would kind of emphasize it's a trap door and you drop into a bucket of you know what. And that's exactly what this bill is. It is total BS. You're hurting locals. You say you're all about protecting democracy. No, this hurts democracy. This is a blatant violation of local home rule. You know that, we know that. And you say you trust the voters, say time and time again, but as I said last night on some of these, the problem is the voters don't trust us. And why don't they trust us? Because time and time again, you bring pieces of legislation like this that just sums your nose at the voters' wishes and what they want, what they've told us. Because why? You think you know best. Why? Because all you are looking for with these bills is pure political power grab. It's wrong, it's not fair, it's shameful, it's disgusting, and even an 8th grader can understand that. So for this, Madam Speaker, my colleagues, I will absolutely be voting no on this ridiculous constitutional amendment, just like I did on the ridiculous redistricting amendment, the judicial amendment, and the legislation to give you the language to write it. All about political power grab, all about thinking you know what's best. Shame on you. I vote no. I just want to say thank you to a couple I know very well, Joe and Elisa Tobey of Corning, New York. Tragically, the Tobias lost their son, Matt, to suicide. They shared their story of how he asked for help, couldn't receive it, really how our state failed him. But they took that tragedy and wanted to help other families so they have to experience the same thing. They brought this bill to our attention a few years ago. It got passed. The governor vetoed it. They continued their push. Last year, Joe came up and testified before the Mental Health Budget Committee, shared passionately, convincingly about why we need to make change. This council will create a comprehensive plan to make the changes necessary because we know the rate of suicide in our rural counties is much higher than it is in our metropolitan area. This council will work to address those barriers, those obstacles to access care. It will work to identify best practices, solutions, and resources to help families who are asking for help, just like your son, Matt, asked for help. Hopefully, with this council, hopefully this year the governor will sign it and we can have this collaborative approach to help those families across our state, and particularly in our rural areas, which again we know have that higher rate. So I again want to just say thank you so much to the Tobia family for taking your tragedy and trying to make things better for other families. So thank you, Madam Speaker. I vote in affirmative.
And we thank Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for those two clips. Coming up here in just a moment, we're going to also hear from Keuka College. But first, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano also celebrated the passage of a bill that will increase organ donation. You know that that's a topic that's near and dear to Phil's heart. It's called the Doorways to Donation Act, which will increase organ donations across New York. Specifically, this proposal, which Palmisano co-sponsored, will allow New Yorkers to register for the Donate Life program while filing their taxes electronically. Palmisano also allowed a says allowing a streamlined sign-up process will encourage more people to enroll and increase the state's donation rate. I'm so proud to see this bill pass the Assembly. This issue is personal to me. I was lucky enough to donate a kidney to my sister Teresa. I know New Yorkers are good people, and the more opportunities we give them to say yes to being an organ donor, the more they will say yes. Organ donation is not a political issue, and I'm glad to see this bill pass in a bipartisan fashion. This will truly open doorways to donations to help save the lives of New Yorkers. So thank you again to Senator Palmisano. We got to take a short break. When we return, we're going to hear from Keuka College, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
To the me I used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in the Hesselson studio, we're talking Keuka College. Thanks so much for being on the program this morning.
Oh, thank you for having us.
I've got to say, I don't know a lot about Keuka College. I've heard nothing but great things. We're going to talk about some of those great things. But tell us a little bit about the college.
So we are located right on Keuka Lake. We were founded in 1890, so we've been there for a long time. Yeah. And our mission has always been the same, to bring strength to the nation and help to humanity. It was founded basically on a former farm, and the whole community grew up around the college. Yeah. So we were founded as a co-ed institution, but then we reopened after World War I as women only.
Oh, okay.
And we were women only until 1985, and then we became co-educational again. So.
Well, it's got to be the best location for a college probably anywhere.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. This time of year, it's fabulous. Yeah. So.
And we had just had the sheriff on last week, and Sheriff Adler was talking about a partnership, and I was hoping you could discuss it as well, because we couldn't get into the nitty-gritty that much. But tell us about Keuka College partnering up with the New York Sheriff's Institute.
Yeah, so it means a lot to us. We have a criminal justice program at the college, and it's very robust. A lot of our graduates go on to work in parole or in the sheriff's departments. Yeah. And so being able to give back to first responders through the Sheriff's Institute and being able to have people who give so much of themselves to the community come and restore themselves at Keuka College on Keuka Lake is just, it's very important to us.
Well, we've talked to him a lot in the last couple of months about this wellness camp and this wellness idea, and to have it really kick off at Keuka College, because they're still getting their camp set up and all. So I can't remember what he said the program was going to be, but that's coming up very shortly right at Keuka College. I know he seemed very appreciative of it, and it's just an amazing bit of work that you guys do.
Yeah, I think that maybe people take for granted that our first responders are always going to be there.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's something that we need to invest in. And Keuka College has been focused on wellness for a number of years.
Yeah.
So being able to contribute to the wellness of first responders is near and dear to my heart.
Of course. And you talk about wellness, nursing and occupational therapy programs. There, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's such a need for that in the real world, so to speak, when you get out of college, because we talk about just a lack of nursing in our community and statewide. Is that right?
It's true, and we have one of the oldest nursing programs in the state. Eleanor Roosevelt actually came to campus during World War II and asked us to create the program. So we have a very long history with nursing. So yes, there's a tremendous shortage. So being able to provide any nurses is really important to us. And then occupational therapy, we have a large program that has been around for about 40 years. So our occupational therapists are also going out and staying in the community. Over 80% of our alumni stay in upstate New York.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because there is such a need, and you offer how many programs do you offer at Keuka College?
I don't even know.
That many?
Yeah, there's between 20 and 30, but it depends on how you slice it and dice it. You know, like, do you want to say education or early childhood education or early childhood special education or so
it starts to grow. I can understand that. Now, we were talking a little bit off the air. Tell me, what is field period?
So that also was founded in the 1940s at Keuka College, but every student every year, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, spends 140 hours in the field.
Oh, wow.
So what that means to our local employers is that all of our students, all between right now we're about 900 undergraduate students. We've been as high as 1,100, but we'll probably stay right around that 900 mark. Every one of them is out in the community doing service 140 hours per year. So, if you're an OT, usually you want to work in some kind of an OT-focused field. Obviously, student teachers, they're teaching, but we also have business majors and CJ majors and social work majors, and they might be working anywhere. You may have seen them in your place of employment. So what that does for the student is it gives them practical experience on their resume. And also it teaches them early on, because when you're a freshman and you do 140 hours in something that you think is going to be your career and you realize you hate it, you change early on, where in some places, most colleges, you don't get an internship opportunity till junior year.
Exactly.
At which point, if you decide to change your major, it's going to cost you and your family a lot more money to change.
This can't be common. I've never heard of that before.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's very
What a good idea.
unusual, and it's having it embedded in the curriculum for credit is really unusual.
Yeah, 140 hours. That's a lot of time each year on top of their studies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So they do it usually in January or over the summer.
And let me ask, because we were talking and learning a little bit about Keuka College here, and I know I've talked to other colleges in our area. How has higher education changed, and how is it changing? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so this year, some of the biggest changes are coming out of the federal government. So out of DC, there are changes in the lending rules, there are changes in accreditation, and none of that, I think, was obvious. At least it wasn't to me that that would be coming, and those changes would be so imminent and so widespread. So how people are going to pay for college could change based on the federal funding models. I think that the conversation over the last decade, at least, has been that there's been a loss of faith in institutions, including higher ed, and people are really wondering, is it worth it? Is it worth the money? And so I think that's why Washington is really focusing on this. There's no question to me, or people who do what I do, that it's worth it. And Keuka College graduates are in the top 10%, based on a New York Times article, of people that have upward economic mobility for themselves and their families. Oh, wow. There's no question it's worth it, right? It's expensive, but it's worth it. Yeah. So I'm really interested in how do we continue this dialogue with the broader community so that we have the workforce that we need for the future. Because if people start to doubt the value of education, then the shortage we're facing in nursing or education or what, it's only going to get worse. So I think it's something that needs attention. And
how do you strike
discussion.
that balance of getting the word out there? Because it seems like right now there is kind of the popularity, like you said, of not getting a college education, going in the trades, and there's something great to be said about that. And we're not denying that. But then we hear like we talked about earlier in the news, we don't have enough nurses, we don't have so how do you find that middle ground?
Well, and how do you find the thing that's right for you, right?
Right.
Like if you know at an early age that the trades is really where you're meant to be, go on the trades.
Yeah.
But if you're not sure and you need some exploration, usually education is the thing that opens your eyes to different opportunities that you didn't know existed. So it's really, how do you get people that opportunity at the lowest possible cost?
Right.
And get them into where it is that they want to get in the shortest period of time. I think that's the goal.
And I think when you talk about the 140 hours every single year of experience, that's like what's better than hands-on? Like you said, at the end of the day, you may say, oh, this wasn't for me, right? But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think prepares young people to go into adulthood, essentially.
Agreed, 100%. And we get so much feedback from the employers that host our
sure.
students
Yeah,
that
they must love it.
They do,
Yeah.
and it benefits their businesses too.
Exactly. Now, I want to mention this because I didn't see coverage of this. We talked about it quickly on the program. I was hoping you could tell us about the really special event that happened during commencement.
Oh, yes. So we had a student whose mother asked if we could surprise the student because her brother, who was in the military and deployed, had told his sister that he couldn't make it to her graduation. And suddenly he got leave the week before, and so they decided to surprise her. So we arranged the special surprise for this student who just happened to be one of our graduation speakers. And it was so amazing and so heartwarming. I mean, you could see the entire audience had
You can
tears
see it
in
in
their
the
eyes.
picture right there. Everybody clapping and crying.
It was insane. But what was really unique about this is that the Today Show picked it up and the NBC Nightly News, and yet none of the major media markets in Rochester, nobody else picked it up locally.
Isn't that wild? And like you said, that is a heartwarming. First of all, they're not fair when they show those because you end up like teary-eyed.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the story I want to see,
No.
but it really is that amazing of a story that it should be everywhere.
It should.
And the fact, do you find, and I don't want to get you in any trouble, but do you find that in your market where you're situated that you have struggles trying to get the information out?
We do. So we're kind of equidistant between Rochester, Elmira, Corning, and so nobody really claims us as being part of their media market unless something bad happens, and then everyone claims us.
Yeah, then also, yes.
And I don't think that is doing justice to Keuka College because so many of our graduates and so many of our incoming students come from these counties.
Right.
And so people are interested. And even, our men's basketball team won the conference championship. We were the Empire 8 champions this year. We beat Brockport.
Wow.
You would think we would be on the front page of the Democrat and Chronicle sports section.
You weren't?
No coverage.
Oh my gosh.
So it's frustrating
I'm
to
sure.
say the least, mostly on behalf of our students,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not really, we've tried so many different ways to engage with media, and we just haven't been successful.
It's so tough to get on the kind of my passion here about media. So many of these outlets are so bare bones now.
They are.
And especially where you're located, and I've talked about this with other people, when we talk about Hornell, it's easier to send someone to the accident that's right down the block from the from their main headquarters than it is to send them on an all-day trip for one story. It's not fair, but that's kind of what they're doing.
It is, but what about when we send you the story?
Right.
Why wouldn't you broadcast that?
I don't know.
We sent
I
it.
did.
Well,
See, I'm good. I'm good.
Exactly. Is that really?
So if you want to badmouth everybody else, you go right ahead.
If you take one thing away from this conversation, it's that Frank is good.
Yes, that's right. You heard it here first, at the very first time. But no, that's the trouble. I don't know. I've had this conversation with so many people. I'm on the Salvation Army board. I'm on their advisory board. I'm the president. But because I know public relations, I'll try to send out press releases. And trying to get coverage anymore, even for something like that, is extremely difficult.
That is really unfortunate.
It's heartbreaking.
Because everybody should know what's happening with the Salvation Army.
And let's face it, people tune in to find out what's going on locally. We can get kind of national news elsewhere, and that's why it's so nice when there's a local aspect to it. And that's why I'm so glad you could be on the program. And I want to talk I'm going to ask you one last tough question, okay?
Okay.
We've talked about the amazing history of Keuka College and really just the legacy. What's the future look like?
So we are doing really well. I think that we, some of my higher education colleagues might talk about the demographic cliff, in that there are fewer 18-year-olds graduating from high school, and that is going to hit the entire state. It's already hitting in some places.
Yeah.
But because we typically recruit from areas that are a little bit smaller school districts outside of Monroe County,
Right.
Our enrollment has stayed solid.
That's
and
great.
it has actually grown
Yeah.
post-pandemic. So, we have always operated as a smaller institutions. We did not overbuild the way that I would say some of the regional colleges have overbuilt. And we all knew that this demographic shift was coming and that people were leaving the state. So, one of the things that really concerns me is the amount of money that we're spending as a state on maintaining the number of SUNY campuses that we have when we don't have as many people that need education.
Right.
But when you're a small private institution like we are, we have to be really careful about expansion,
Sure, of
because
course.
when the market contracts, it will affect us. But we're the right size for this period of time.
Do you think the numbers have stayed pretty close because you have such an amazing reputation?
I'm not really sure. I think that I've heard both things. I will hear out in the community when people don't know who I am, oh, I heard Keuka College is going to close. That rumor has been out there for as long as I can remember, and it has been false really for at least the last 7 or 8 years. When I first took over as president, our finances were shaky. So there's no question that this is a difficult endeavor, but now things are going really well. And I think that our programs are in demand, our faculty are in demand, and we are the right size for certain students. We're not too big, not too small. So,
and if you're thinking about it, and you're on Keuka Lake.
Well, and that's the best.
Do you think, how many people does that bring in every year?
Tons.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people want to get a residence hall that overlooks?
Sure.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Of course you would, yeah.
And the fact that we have stand-up paddle boards and kayaks and canoes that are just sitting there ready for students to take out at any point, or camping gear or what. I mean, it is a great place to live.
And I know that's why the sheriff wanted a partner. I mean, what a beautiful location.
Yes, and hopefully we can provide some of that restorative energy to first responders.
Everybody's a little more laid back on
That's
Keuka
right.
College, at Keuka College. So how can people find out more? I've got the website on the screen. Is that the best place to go?
Oh yeah, definitely the website, and there are always people waiting to respond to any questions that community members might have.
Well, great. You want to do this again?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
All right, thank you for having me.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. A warm start to what will be a rather summery week ahead. A good 10 degrees above average with mostly sunny skies, topping off around 87 for our Monday. Lows in the upper 50s with rather clear skies into Tuesday. Then upper 80s and low 90s on Tuesday. We will find ourselves with some thunderstorm potential beginning in the middle of the week and then staying a bit more active, but still rather hot with 90s expected Thursday and Friday.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We want to thank our guests from Keuka College. We got a couple of comments to get to here, and then we're going to get right back into it if I can get this up on the screen. All right, here we go. Maybe. There we go. All right. Frank, who's this from? Ken. Yes, Ken. He says, there must have been a sugar-powered food fight in the seat over Phil's shoulder. There's a pile of candy wrappers and the covers ripped off the chair back. Probably a Democrat reaction to one of Phil's speeches after the camera turned off. There was a lot of candy on that desk. I would agree. That was, everybody's very observant about what's in the background, but there was a lot of candy at that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Comment from a different viewer. Elon Musk is saying what millions of Republican voters have been thinking for years. The old rhino class keeps blocking the change voters demand. The problem is not just Democrats. It is career Republicans who campaign tough and then fold once they get back to Washington. Primary challenges are how voters clean house. If Congress keeps rewarding weakness, backroom deals, and betrayal of the America First agenda, patriots have every right to replace the politicians standing in the way. Does Elon have your support on this? Well, I think there are a lot of primary challengers, and that's why we've seen so many of these kind of the old guard, the rhinos that are losing and losing to Trump-endorsed candidates. So, yeah, if you don't like one of the quote-unquote rhinos, run yourself. I'm all for it. Hakeem Jeffries on Sunday dodged key questions about the scandal-scarred Maine Senate hopeful, Graham Plantner, who is married and faces a primary election race, was hit, actually it's today, no, I'm sorry, Tuesday, excuse me, was hit early on with revelations of a Nazi-linked tattoo and cheating by texting. Then last week came allegations of deeply disturbing behavior toward female partners and him harboring disturbing fantasies. Hakeem Jeffries said, I haven't followed these allegations closely, but what I have said is that violence against women in any way, shape, or form is unacceptable. It's a red line, and nobody should cross that. Any accuser who comes forward has to be treated with dignity and respect. Pressed on the host of Plantner's other scandals, Hakeem Jeffries said he's going to have to speak for himself, and that's why any candidate, particularly in a high-profile race, is going to be called upon to do. The New York Times had those details last week. As I mentioned, we went through all of those. But, man, what a bunch of scandals. And some of the things that he posted online. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, according to the New York Post editorial board, said that he doesn't want to know about the monster he's trying to elect. He dodged questions about Plantner's anti-Semitic effort to paint his opponent as an Israeli pawn and refused to engage about New Jersey's House nominee Dr. Adam Hamway's links to al-Qaeda and friendship with convicted terrorist Omar Abdel Rahman, the blind sheik. Jeffries did volunteer that he's 100% against violence against women and anti-Semitism too, but Fox host Jacqueline Heinrich would have to ask the candidate themselves about this because he knows nothing. What is he supposed to pay attention to? The news or something? He said he knew nothing about this. No, he's too busy trying to elect these Democrats to consider whether they might be monsters. His only counter to Heinrich was to wave at Republican haters, blithely ignoring how the GOP has been pushing out anti-Semitic loons like Tom Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, even as Jeffries and company tolerate or even cheer extremists like Representative Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Jeffries won't even comment on vile Plantner's lies, such as a staggering one-third of her money raised this quarter came directly from AIPAC. Senator Collins is bought and paid for by Benjamin Netanyahu, and she votes accordingly. She gets less than 3% of her cash from AIPAC, which is funded completely by Americans, even as Democrats' huge dark money network get tens of millions from overseas interests. We're sure Hakeem will say he knows nothing about that, too. As long as it helps Democrats take over Congress, he'll keep his eyes wide shut. For Jeffries, leadership means willful ignorance about any fact that might get in the way of you taking power. And that's what we've heard from other politicians saying, well, I don't like what he did, but We've got to win. Remember Sonny Hoyston saying it on The View, but we've got to win. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
After working to reduce your stroke risk, the initial treatment for AFib is often to stabilize your heart rate, but controlling your heart's rhythm may be just as important for long-term health. Ask your doctor how to get in rhythm and stay in rhythm. Learn more at stopafib.org.
The American Cancer Society's Hope Lodge communities offer a free home away from home, closer to cancer care. People are meant to be together.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Rick writes in this morning and says, "Good morning, Frank." Well, good morning, Rick. When are law-abiding citizens who aren't investigated and charged by the DOJ going to get their check from Trump? The bad guys get a check. Where's the good guys' payout? Trump walks out of Meet the Press interview after totally bashing Meet the Press and its host, Kristen Welker. Unbelievable how he treats people, especially women. He's a coward. Shifting gears again, I had to send a car part back to Summit Racing, so off to UPS we go on Denison Parkway. The wife and I pull in, and about 10 feet off our right from the fender is a lady, maybe to mid to late 50s, with 3 or 4 bags of stuff, standing there talking to herself. I thought, well, she's waiting for a local bus. I grabbed my package, lock the truck, and head in. I just get through the first door and she starts screaming, loud, very loud. Well, I quick drop my package off and head back out, and this lady is reading the riot act to an imaginary someone. I mean, I don't know what, there were so many cuss words out there. One of those local transit buses pulls in and she picks up her bags and heads that way. Just a screaming and yelling and cussing at no one. I've seen this lady before, 50s, black woman with a severe case of a skin pigment disorder. I'm not sure what the law is, but that lady doesn't need to be out on the streets. She needs some serious inpatient therapy. The law probably is a offer help, and if the party refuses, there's nothing they can do. Up until when they do something unlawful. That's wrong. There are more and more people walking our streets that need help but aren't getting it. Well, it's a new week. Thank you, Rick. Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and there's a lot of people on the street that need, like you said, need the help but aren't getting it. And in some cases are a danger to others, but a danger to themselves as well. So Representative Ro Khanna's excuse about what Graham Plantner did is that we broke a lot of people by sending them to Iraq. Excuse me? So it's the Iraq war to blame for his text message scandal and his Nazi tattoo. Ro Khanna saying we broke a lot of people when discussing the saga of scandal-ridden Democrat candidate Graham Plantner. James Carville endorsed the blanked up Graham Plantner, compares him to the U.S. allying with Stalin in World War II. Okay? He's blanked up. He's been shot at. He's a veteran. He's a little bit weird. He's an oyster man. Then his opponent, I can hardly say her name without the utter contempt dripping, Susan Collins, whose spine reminds me of a blueberry jelly from Maine. Maybe we need a combat veteran right on that Senate floor who is blanked up. If you believe, as I do, that the country is in imminent peril, I mean imminent peril, who is most likely to slow this criminal in charge? Susan Blueberry Jelly Collins, or 5 degrees off dead center, Graham Plattner? I think it's Graham Plattner. And you know, if Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill could work with Joseph Stalin, who, by the way, well, I'll tell you this, he was a bad guy, a really bad guy, right? Then I can overlook a tattoo. Okay. It's all about the power. It's all about gaining that power. Bill Maher had a different take on it. He said, Democrats, they have another sex creep problem. Have you seen this guy, Graham Plattner, up in Maine? Their big hope is to take the Senate, the Democrats, but Graham Plattner, he's a lot. You know, he's got a Nazi tattoo. We don't know about that. Maybe he was just drunk. You didn't know, it was whatever. But, you know, he definitely was texting other women outside of the marriage. Now some of the girlfriends are coming forward. One of them says he used to watch TV while he was sharpening his axe. It goes into some of this. Maher also made a joke about Maine author Stephen King, whose work is often centered on horror stories set in the state. Maher said Plattner's alleged axe sharpening could cost him women and their votes, but he did win over Stephen King. Wow. So saying that it's another sex creep problem with Plattner and his misconduct allegations. We got to take a break and then wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. By the way, did you see that Fetterman said that if Graham Plattner proves he didn't send inappropriate pictures to minors, he would get rid of his hoodie and change it in for a suit? P. Hustle, he calls them, because that's the name that he used on that dating website. Here's a great chance. You could prove that all those people that you're dropping those, we'll say, pictures with and saying these things to were over 18. I will wear a suit every day in the Senate. You can set the record clear and provide all those texts and all those conversations that you were having as a newlywed just before you were going to run for the Senate. Transparency. So Fetterman said he will wear a suit and tie if he can prove it. All right, we got to take a short break and then wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman & Gordon, 1-800-698-0567.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Yay! Become a wishmaker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, a warm start to what will be a rather summery week ahead. A good 10 degrees above average with mostly sunny skies, topping off around 87 for our Monday. Lows in the upper 50s with rather clear skies into Tuesday. Then upper 80s and low 90s on Tuesday. We will find ourselves with some thunderstorm potential beginning in the middle of the week and then staying a bit more active, but still rather hot with 90s expected Thursday and Friday.
We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Frankly Speaking. Here on Market Street. All right, Scott Pelley, according to the Federalist, was nothing but a highly paid propagandist. And they go through some of his history here. You can find it at the New York Post or at the Federalist. But he said in that interview where he kind of had a breakdown and comparing what was happening to 60 Minutes to the murder of a family. But he said our country is in peril. But that's how political activists speak, not journalists. So what do you call a political activist who plays the role of a journalist? Well, a paid propagandist, and that's what the Federalist is calling him. By the way, our former governor, remember this name, David Patterson, he ripped into Kathy Hochul and fellow Democrats for a planned power grab that will allow them to carve up congressional maps and try to reduce the number of Republican-held seats. Patterson claimed Hochul championed the partisan move to amend the state constitution because she is completely outnumbered by Democrats in the legislature clamoring for change. They're going to draw their own maps for partisan gain. She, meaning Hochul, almost taking a lead on it just to maintain that relationship with the legislature. It's a real problem. Democrats now control 19 of New York's 26 congressional seats. The proposed New York amendment, if approved, would remove the state's ban on gerrymandering and allow the map to be changed mid-decade, opening the door for new House districts for the 2028 presidential elections. The amendment would also keep New York's bipartisan redistricting commission in place, but give a simple majority of both houses, the state, Senate, and Assembly, the ability to override a proposed map from the panel. A two-thirds majority is currently required, which allows Republicans to block such a move, remove language dictating that districts shall not be drawn to discourage competition, effectively allowing political gerrymandering. Kathy Hochul giving that interview over the weekend saying that she never planned on running for governor or planned on running for office. And it kind of shows in her delivery, doesn't it? New York lawmakers moved to pause data centers in New York and curb surveillance pricing. The session ended last Thursday. So that is your quick update on New York. Again, we want to thank Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for sending in those clips from Albany. We want to thank our guests from Keuka College. We really do appreciate that. On tomorrow's broadcast, we are going to hear from a cast member of The Music Man, which is coming to the Clemens Center in Elmira. So we're going to learn all about that on tomorrow's broadcast. That's Savannah Stevenson. She plays Mrs. Peru from The Music Man, and that's at the Clemens Center June 10th and 11th. Also want to again thank Amy Story from the president of Keuka College for being on the broadcast this morning. Have a great day, everyone. We will be back tomorrow morning bright and early with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.